I was born in England in 1632. My father was German and my mother was English. I had 2 brothers and 1 sister, and we were a good family. My father was a successful businessman, and we lived a comfortable life. I received a good education and had everything I needed. But deep inside, I had a dream to travel by sea and explore the world. My father, a wise and loving man, wanted the best for me. However, my dream was not his dream. He wanted me to stay home, live a safe life, and follow in his footsteps. He was deeply troubled by my desire to venture out into the unknown. When I turned 18, my father called me into his room. His face was serious as he asked me why I wanted to travel by sea. He warned me of the dangers, storms, shipwrecks, and the possibility of never returning. "The sea is not a comfortable place," he said. "It can take your life in an instant." His voice trembled, and to my surprise, tears welled up in his eyes. I listened carefully, considering his words. He was right. Traveling by sea was dangerous. It was unpredictable. I could lose everything, even my life. But despite his warnings, the thought of adventure still excited me. I longed to see new lands, meet different people, and experience the world beyond England. Hoping to gain her support, I turned to my mother. I pleaded with her to help me convince my father, but she too believed that the best life for me was here in England. She saw no reason for me to risk my life when I had everything I needed at home. A year later, in 1651, I visited Hull, a town in England. It was the 1st of September when I met a friend whose father owned a ship. They traveled frequently and their next journey was to London. "Come with us," my friend suggested. I hesitated. I wasn't prepared. But deep down, I knew this was my chance. If I wanted to know whether life at sea was meant for me, I had to take the risk. So, I boarded the ship and set sail for London. The first hour was thrilling. The vast ocean stretched endlessly before me, and the salty breeze filled me with excitement. But soon, dark clouds gathered, and the wind grew stronger. Waves rose higher and higher, tossing the ship like a toy. Fear gripped me. I thought of home, my warm bed, and my father's words. Was this the right decision? By morning the storm had passed. The sky was clear and the sea was calm. A sailor approached me with a grin. He cracked a few jokes, trying to lighten my mood. "So, how was the storm?" he asked. "It was terrifying," I admitted. He laughed heartily. That was nothing. Just a bit of wind." He handed me a drink, and I drank more than I should have. That night I slept soundly, the fear of the storm fading away. By the next morning, I no longer thought about home or my comfortable life in England. Instead, I dreamed more about the adventures that lay ahead. For the next 3 days, the wind was weak and we moved slowly. Then, suddenly, the winds picked up and we sped forward. But our journey was far from over. Another storm approached, this one fiercer than the first. This time, even the experienced sailors looked uneasy. My fear returned, stronger than before. Chapter 2. The Storm and Capture. The storm was worse than anything I had imagined. The waves were enormous, rising like mountains around us. Through the window, I watched helplessly as other ships were tossed about like toys. Fear took hold of me, and I longed to be home again. The storm raged on, and soon a terrible discovery was made: a hole in the ship. Water poured in rapidly, and panic spread among the crew. Many men rushed below deck to pump out the water. I was paralyzed with fear until one man urged me to help. Summoning my courage, I joined them in a desperate attempt to save our ship. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. It was a signal from the captain, an indication that we were in grave danger. The situation was dire, the hole was too big, and despite our efforts, the water continued to rise. Though the storm eventually calmed, our ship was beyond saving. Hope came in the form of another ship. It was close enough to send a small rescue boat. The men aboard risked their lives for us, and one by one we climbed onto the boat. Just 15 minutes later, our ship sank beneath the waves. Though we were safe, I was still terrified. As we drifted, land came into view. We rowed toward it, growing closer with every passing moment. Soon we could see people on the beach. They were from a nearby village and had been waiting for us. Kind and generous, they helped us ashore and provided us with food and money. With their assistance, we had a choice: to go back to Hull or continue to London. I chose London. Traveling by land, I eventually reached the city. There I met a captain, a kind and experienced man. He offered me a place on his ship bound for Africa. He spoke of great opportunities in trade and explained what goods were valuable in Africa. Intrigued, I purchased items that were cheap in England but expensive in Africa. When we set sail, I was hopeful. The journey was a success, and I returned to England with a small fortune. The taste of adventure and profit fueled my desire for more. Eager to learn, I asked the captain to teach me how to navigate and control a ship. Under his guidance, I gained valuable skills. Encouraged by my success, I decided to return to Africa. But this time, fate had a different plan. The voyage started smoothly, but one morning we noticed another ship following us. It was a pirate ship. By afternoon they had drawn dangerously close. We tried to escape, but they were faster. They attacked relentlessly, attempting to board our ship. We fought them off at first, but they struck again, stronger than before. This time they succeeded. Pirates swarmed our deck, breaking everything in sight. Some of our men were killed, others injured. Realizing we stood no chance, we surrendered. We had lost. We were now prisoners of the pirates. Chapter 3. The Woman and Escape. I was young and strong, but I had become a slave to the pirate captain. Life as a slave was harsh. I worked long hours either in the house or in the garden, under the captain's command. I despised the work and longed to be free again. One day, while working in the house, I met a young woman. She was breathtakingly beautiful, and like me, she was also a slave. She didn't speak my language, but I felt that she understood me. Whenever she saw me, she smiled, and sometimes she would gently touch my hand in passing. These moments were brief and dangerous. If the captain saw, he could send her away. I thought of her constantly. Though we could never be together officially, I felt as if she was my love and I was hers. But our reality was cruel. Slaves had no right to love. The captain often took me fishing, along with a young boy who worked with me. One day, as we fished, a thick fog surrounded our boat. We were lost at sea. After a long night, we finally found land by morning. Upon returning, the captain ordered us to prepare a larger boat, one more suited for long voyages. This was my chance to escape. The captain instructed me to stock the boat with food, drinks, and weapons for a planned hunting trip with his guests. But the guests never arrived. That night, I prepared the boat as usual, but I left the supplies on board. I had a plan. The next day, I would run away. I wanted to take the young woman with me, but I had no way to do so. It was impossible. I was heartbroken, torn between freedom and love. The next morning, as I prepared to leave, I saw her one last time. Our eyes met, and she must have sensed something was different. She touched my hand, her face filled with sadness. We both knew this was our final moment together. An hour later, the boy and I were ready. One of the captain's friends joined us, our overseer for the day. My escape had begun. Chapter 4. The Lion and Survival. Once we were far from land. I pretended that I couldn't catch fish, leading our overseer to direct us farther out. When he moved to the front of the boat, I seized my chance and pushed him into the sea. Seeing my gun, he swam away in fear. Finally, after 2 years, I was free. The boy and I sailed as fast as possible, avoiding the pirates' reach. For 5 days I didn't let the boy stop the boat. Only on the 6th day did I feel safe enough to search for fresh water. As we neared a river, we heard strange noises. Wild animals. One swam toward us, and I had to shoot to scare it away. Later, as we searched for food, the boy found a bird resembling a chicken, and we finally had fresh meat. We continued along the coast of Africa, hoping to find an English ship. One morning, as we collected water, a lion appeared. It charged toward us, and I had no choice but to shoot. 3 bullets later, the beast was dead. Though we couldn't eat its meat, we took its skin and dried it on our boat. Our adventure continued, but dangers still lay ahead. Chapter 5. The Ship and Rescue. For the next 10 days, we continued our journey along the coast, stopping only for fresh water. Soon we saw signs of life. People watching us from the shore. One day a large group appeared, including many children. I wanted to stop and approach them, but the boy was hesitant, afraid of the unknown. The people on the beach offered us food. 2 men ran into the forest and returned with dried meat. We didn't want to go ashore, and they hesitated to swim out to us. Eventually they placed the food on the ground and stepped back. When they were at a safe distance, we retrieved it. This exchange built trust, and soon they approached us. Suddenly, 2 wild animals emerged from the forest. One attacked a young girl. I fired my gun, killing the beast, while the other fled. The villagers were shocked by the gunshot, and amazed at the dead animal. Grateful for saving the girl, they provided us with even more food and water. 10 days later, we spotted some islands, but before we could investigate, the boy cried out. He had seen a ship. His fear grew as he thought it might be a pirate vessel, but as I examined it, I recognized it as Portuguese. I fired my gun to signal them, and soon we were aboard their ship. Though the crew spoke Portuguese, Spanish, and French, I didn't understand them. Fortunately, a Scottish sailor translated for me. When the captain heard our story, he was incredibly kind. He allowed us to board without taking our belongings. Instead, he insisted on paying for them. I offered to sell our boat at half the usual price, and he accepted. He also wanted to train the boy as a sailor, but I hesitated. He was still young, and I believed he deserved freedom, not another form of servitude.